This is the Agribusiness Report. I'm Tony St. James, joined today by Ben Weinheimer, and Ben is with the Texas Cattle Feeders Association, President, CEO.
Yes, sir.
It's a good convention, right?
It has been. It's been a good time. Everyone came in ready to spend some time together, get some good information, be inspired with some of the presentations that we've had. Of course, hear good things about the market dynamics that we're experiencing currently, and just a chance to get together with their friends and cattle feeding peers here in Grapevine.
Let's talk about you for just a moment. You're president and CEO. A couple of years now that you've been in that role, but what led you up to becoming president and CEO?
Yeah, it's been almost 2 years, the transition into the president and CEO role. My tenure with TCFA extends back to 1995. Started then doing environmental work for the association, and that's where it made a lot of sense with a degree in ag engineering and a lot of water quality, air quality type experience. And then, really one of the first things we spent time on doing was building up our environmental services program within the association, really focusing on environmental permit compliance and, looking to the future in terms of environmental management and helping our guys, further improve what they're doing. So did that for a number of years, and then just continued to expand in various responsibilities within the association on the regulatory side and legislative side of things. And it's been a really great opportunity, obviously, and one that's exciting to be here today and in front of the group as president and CEO during our business meeting, sharing with them some of the major things that we've accomplished this past year on their behalf, and looking forward to what the future holds for us in terms of opportunities for them and for the association.
Not quite 30 years with the organization, but a lot of things have changed over that 30 years. Some of the names that you might have seen 30 years ago, maybe the first names are gone, but some new first names with some older last names still within the industry, whether it's leadership or just membership.
Yeah.
How important is it that TCFA is really working on those family levels, if you will, through the feeders?
Well, it's a really good point, and it's actually aligns well with my career at the association now, having worked for multiple generations of the same family. Even where we've had a role in helping them with some generational transitions to help make sure that happens, right? That we can continue to pass these operations down to future family members, and it really, if you look at it from regardless of the feed yard, whether it's a single family owned operation or some of our larger operations, really TCFA is just that. It's a family of families, and the structure might be slightly different from an organizational point of view. Even our smaller feed yards tend to have some type of structure in place, whether it's a limited partnership or they're incorporated or a limited liability company, various reasons for doing that in terms of liability reasons, right, to make sure that the family's protected if there's an unfortunate incident that happens on the property. Also just addressing some of the tax implications and so forth, trying to put the best kind of business structure in place that's for the benefit of the cattle feeding company that they're operating and for the benefit of the families.
One thing that hasn't changed, though, is weather. Other than the fact that weather changes across your region, one thing I'd like to say you're used to dealing with, maybe not liking it as much, is drought. Has that been a challenge for you, at least over the last couple of years?
Well, it has been, and we're still reeling from the effects of the drought that's now taken hold of the South and kind of the South Central states for a few years. even looking at just the drought monitor map released from last week, still not much relief, right? Over a good part of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and that's has factored in and will continue to factor in to the cow population, and in turn the number of feeder cattle that we have on feed within our region. So one where it's causing our guys to really look at how and where they source cattle from. Several members continuing to explore putting more beef on dairy cross cattle on feed, learning about how best to feed those cattle slightly differently from a health and nutrition point of view than the native cattle, just as a way to try to fill the gap a little bit on occupancy and keep their feed yard efficiencies up, running near optimal occupancies, and something that's not only good for them as a cattle feed yard company, but also good for their customers as they can kind of keep their per head cost as low as possible. So that the drought issue is one that still continues to persist. You know, we were hopeful back earlier this year listening to some of the weather forecasts. There was a lot more optimism in the shift to El Nino, probably about the time that we would be standing here, right, was what they were saying back in January, that by October, you know, look for that wetter fall and wetter winter. They're still suggesting that. You know, we haven't actually realized that yet, but some version of an El Nino where we would actually get more moisture, get more vegetation, start the process, albeit shortly thereafter. It'll be a bit even more painful for us as their heifer retention goes up. We don't see those heifers come on feed, but longer term, you know, a way that we can bring the cow inventories back to what they were prior to this drought.
So part of this is it's a two-sided coin. One side it's a challenge, yet the other side it's an opportunity, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think that's why you see several of the attitudes here trying to not focus as much on the drought, but enjoy a little bit of this resulting market effect caused by that drought. And that's just very simple supply and demand economic principles. As we've tightened this cattle inventory up all the way through the system, paired with a really strong beef demand. So we're in a market situation where the cow-calf producer, the stocker operators, the cattle feeders all have some good margins in the black for a change. And we're in the cycle would tell you, you know, it's time for that to happen, and let the cattle guys kind of heal up from some of their losses, especially during the Holcomb plant fire and the pandemic.
Last one here for you. You started by explaining what you were doing back in '95 when you joined the organization. That was really looking forward. What's coming down the road, trying to be proactive, if you will. I also know that you were a key component in starting a group, a roundtable, if you will,
right,
and trying to be on the proactive, being on the offense there. As you look back at where that organization has come, you feel pretty good about it?
It is something that we're still really proud of, and me personally, having been involved in the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef and bringing together the entire supply chain and all those different ideas and expectations for, you know, what does it mean to be sustainable and how do you apply that in each segment of the business. And it does tie back to some of those earlier comments that I made about as we work to build our individual programs on environmental services and compliance, our employee safety program and our beef quality assurance program. All of those are the key talking points under this sustainability umbrella that's become more and more important today for the packers and the retailers and different groups that are interested specifically in, you know, what are you doing to better yourself, to take care of your people, the environment, the animals that we're trusted with raising. And so that organization continues to make good strides forward, trying to look at, you know, the concept more around setting sustainability goals and giving the whole industry, all the different segments of the supply chain, is something to strive for as far as making improvements. From that perspective, I think we'll continue to see that conversation evolve, and let that kind of provide a feedback mechanism for us about what other opportunities do we have to look at during this window of time. I think as you see our group and organizationally be able to take a pause a little bit from being overly concerned about the markets, because they seem to be taking care of themselves. The supply chain imbalance in terms of feeder cattle supply and available shackle space in the plants, that leverage is to our advantage for the time being. So it's also a good time then to work on other priorities, like what can we now do in the good times to further shore up things like our animal ID and traceability initiatives, and what can we do as collectively as cattle producers across the spectrum to take a step back, a little broader view, or at a higher view of what are all the things that we need to be looking at to further this industry, to remove the barriers for future generations, so that they can continue to come back to the feed yard, and whether that's as a family owner of a feed yard or a long-time feed yard employee that wants to ensure that that operation and that company can continue to feed cattle going forward. So this is the time when it makes sense to really peel back all the layers, look for all the things that we can do to make that viable going forward in the future.
It's fun to be on the offense every once in a while, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, once in a while you want the ball in your possession.
Well, go score.
All right, we'll do it. Thank you,
Ben
Tony.
Weinheimer is President and CEO of Texas Cattle Feeders Association, TCFA. They're headquartered in Amarillo. And we're in Grapevine for TCFA's annual convention. I'm Tony St. James. It's the Agribusiness Report.